Welcome everyone to this AI Sweden side event to Sweden Innovation Days. We're very happy to be here. Today we're going to focus on the global collaboration in accelerating AI for green transition and healthcare. My name is Ebba Josefsson Lindqvist. I'm International Relations Manager at AI Sweden, based out of Gothenburg. And with me I have Alexander from our Stockholm office.
Hi, I'm Alexander Brunner, and I am the Startup Program Manager at AI Sweden. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Alexander. Great to be here with you, and we will be co-hosting this event together. And we will have a quick look at the agenda first. Of course, we will share a few words about AI Sweden and what we do. But the main point of this webinar is really to share some of the collaboration projects that we are doing. And we will start off with a greeting from Canada, focusing on the healthcare collaborations happening with Unity Health. And our colleague Peter, based in Montreal, has recorded a video that we will share with you. The second part will be a panel discussion focusing on our collaboration with World Wildlife Fund Sweden and how we can look into using AI for green transition. That part will be a bit more interactive, so we're really hoping that you as the audience will use our Q&A function to please come with both input, questions, comments, etc. So please really take the advantage of being able to share some input and impact this project. That will be the second part, so you are welcome to start using the Q&A already now, but we will remind you again when we get to that part. We are recording this webinar, and of course we will share it on AI Sweden's YouTube channel afterwards. And with that, I think we should hear a few words about AI Sweden. Alexander, over to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining in. I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of AI Sweden and why we are doing this. So AI Sweden's mission is really to accelerate the use of AI for the benefit of our society and to strengthen our competitiveness for everyone living in Sweden. So we are working with both private and public sector, and we believe that applying AI can help make a better society and help our industry become more competitive on a global market, which also opens up for global collaboration, which is why we're here today. And us, AI Sweden, we're the National Center for Applied AI. We're neutral, we're non-profit, and broadly funded. We're partly funded by the government through Vinnova, the Innovation Agency of Sweden, as you all know, and through our more than 120 partners coming from both private and the public sector, and of course also academia. We are a national organization, and our partners come from all regions in Sweden. To best work closely with them locally, we operate on a regional level and on a regional presence through our nodes at our different host organizations around Sweden. And you can see the host organizations here on this slide. And you might also notice that there is a Canadian flag as well. So since a couple of years back, we established a presence in Montreal, Canada, and you will hear a bit more about that from our colleague Peter Kurzweili in a video that he has prepared for us about why we're in Canada and what we are doing there. And that is coming up shortly. And then here you can see our 120 plus partners. You can see our public sector partners up to your top left, academia to your top right, corporates and global techs at the bottom right, and startups and SME partners at the bottom left. So this was just a really, really brief overview of AI Sweden. And today we're going to talk about some of the international collaborations that we're having. And if you wish to find out more about AI Sweden or have more questions about us, please reach out to us, or you can also find out more at our website, www.ai.se. And with that, I will leave the word back over to Ebba.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Perfect. And that brings us into the first part here, where we will hear the greeting from Peter and what's going on in Canada, where he will highlight the collaboration with Unity Health. And this is how we can understand how Swedish healthcare can benefit from collaboration globally, and see how we can actually implement and use AI to make the healthcare systems better. With that, we will start the video, and please stay with us, and we will later on go into the Green Transition Project. But first, Peter.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Canada. We're here today to talk about the global collaboration in accelerating AI, and now it's time to talk healthcare. My name is Peter Kurtzfelli, and I'm the representative for AI Sweden, working with the Canadian AI ecosystem. And one might ask, why are AI Sweden in Canada? Why are a national entity working towards accelerating the adoption of AI in both public and private sector in Sweden, spending time in the Canadian AI ecosystem? And what we're doing here is really what we're here to talk about today: international collaborationships. We are here, or I'm based in Canada, so that we can build strong partnerships with some of the leading institutions in the world. Like we see here, we've teamed up with research institutes like Mila in Montreal, or Vector Institute in Toronto, or the relatively new Applied AI Institute at Concordia University. But we're also teaming up with domain players, so institutions and organizations working in different domains with a similar objective like us, accelerating the adoption of AI to create societal value. And in this pursuit, we have built a strong partnership with Unity Health in Toronto. And that's what we're here to talk about today. What I do in Canada, except only build partnerships, is spend a lot of time thinking about and exploring this question. How do we bring AI from the lab to the field? How do we bring the grand advantages and grand discoveries that we're making in academia and research to society as a whole, to some of our most needed of solutions domain, like healthcare, like education, and so on. And in this pursuit and in this discovery, or in this exploration of the Canadian AI ecosystem, we ran into a very, very interesting organization based out of Toronto. But we also prioritize different types of verticals at home. So why we're talking so much about information-driven healthcare is because we see that the healthcare sector is in deep needs of new ways of working, of new solutions to be able to meet the demands of our populations. And we're not alone in this. So to do that, we have the ongoing project, the national-wide project, Information-Driven Healthcare. It's built together with some of our biggest and leading regions in Sweden and their hospitals, where we're really working together on critical challenges to accelerate the adoption of AI in the healthcare sector. And by doing so, or while we do so, we also need inspiration. We also need to look at what's going on at other places so that we can get inspired, but also to have a bigger knowledge exchange, to see what type of solutions they're developing at other hospitals, at other ecosystems, to see if we can partially be inspired by them, but also do the same things. And looking at the Canadian AI ecosystem and healthcare in Canada, Canada is facing very, very similar challenges as Sweden. So as an example, in Canada, the number of hospital beds per 1,000 people has been on the decline since the late 80s. It's a very similar situation in Sweden. And if we have similar situations working on similar challenges with a similar environment in terms of an aging population, we're facing a need for clinicians, we're facing a need for nurses and doctors and so on. That seems like a very good ground for collaboration, for partnering up, especially if we can find a leading institution, a leading organization, not only in the ecosystem, but maybe in the world. So in exploring the Canadian AI ecosystem, we found a very, very interesting organization, if you ask us, Unity Health Toronto. Unity Health Toronto is a downtown healthcare network based in Toronto, of course, Ontario, here in Canada. And what's interesting with them is that they've been sort of under the radar with the work that they've been doing so far. But when we looked at what was really going on at this or in this or hospital network, we saw that they're probably not leaders in Canada. It's probably not only a leading organization in Canada, it's probably a leading organization in the world. The way that they've structured themselves, the way that they deploy AI solutions, the way that they've put over 50 models into an operational setting at a hospital environment, actually saving real life, decreasing mortality, freeing up resources for nurses. That seemed like a very good foundation and a very good ground for us to build a relationship with them and also increase the knowledge transfer between Sweden and Canada in the healthcare sector. So we teamed up with Dr. Mohammed Mamdani and his team to look at how they structured themselves, how they are developing models, how they built their teams, what type of competencies they need, what type of resources they're using to be able to deploy models, AI models, in such a fast pace that they're doing. And what's interesting here is that there's a joint interest from their side too, because they want to learn from the Swedish healthcare system, look at what's going on there, but also team up with other type of actors like the automotive industry, because they understand that they have needs and they can get inspired by what's going on in other industries. And I think this is a key lesson for us, not only to look at your own industry, but also to look at what's going on at others in other organizations. So this is me and my colleague Johanna at a knowledge sharing session together with Dr. Mandani and Mr. Michael Page to talk about how they've structured themselves, to talk about what type of resources they've developed so that we can share that with the Swedish ecosystem. What we've also done is to create knowledge sharing sessions between the hospitals in Sweden and Unity Health in Toronto, where we've developed a series of different knowledge sharing sessions so that the real clinicians, the ones that are actually doing the real work at our hospitals, but also the responsibles at the AI teams, can have this exchange. And if you want to know more about this, we have our podcast available. It's in the AI Sweden podcast, and the episode is called Saving Real Lives with AI in Production in Healthcare. We also have a page around this partnership with Unity Health. You can either scan the QR code or visit ai.sc to find out more. And I want to finish up by this. We truly believe that AI that creates value is within the intersection of AI expertise, of course, data knowledge and existing or infrastructure that you need to invest in, but also domain knowledge. You need the practitioners, you need the clinicians to be involved in building solutions, but also extend this mindset to involve other organizations that are solving similar problems. By that, you can leapfrog some of the challenges and get inspiration, but also get real resources. So with that said, I hope that you feel inspired by this session. If you want to know more, feel free to reach out, and back to the studio.
So that was the greeting from Peter, and we hope that you got some good inspirations on how these international collaborations can work and how we can actually benefit the Swedish ecosystem with these collaborations on AI. And with that, we will go into our second part of the webinar and focus on how AI can accelerate the green transition. And we would like to welcome our panelists. And in the meantime, I'll remind you again, the audience, that please use the Q&A function that we have for input, for questions and comments, because you now have the chance to impact this project. They are really interested in hearing your thoughts and getting some tips from you. And Alexander and I will co-host and moderate this together. Alexander will keep an eye on the Q&A to see the questions that come in. He will also be posting 1 or 2 links in the chat for everyone to know where to find more information. But please use the Q&A for your questions. And with that, please welcome, let's start first with Örjan. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Örjan Jansson. I'm working at WWF in Sweden as leading a program called Climate Innovations.
Thank you very much. And then we'll go to Eva Torslund, one of our colleagues. Oh, we can't still hear you, Eva. Let's see.
Sorry. Hi, everyone, and thanks for inviting me to this discussion. Yes, I work as a senior advisor at AI Sweden for the moment, and I'm involved in different projects, for instance, raising the use of AI on the African continent as well. But today we talk about green transition.
Very good, thank you very much. And Victor.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Victor Bengtsson, and I work with strategic foresight at AI Sweden. And at the moment, I'm focused on green transition, food systems, and also on energy.
Very good. So thank you. We will start to kind of set a scene and a background to the discussion that we will have here. And with that, Örjan, if you can please just tell us a few words about the World Wildlife Foundation or Fund, what you do in Sweden and what your main goals are. Let's kick off from there.
Yes. So WWF is probably the world's largest environmental organization. We work in about more than 100 countries, and we work to sustain the natural life for the benefit of people and nature. So protecting pandas and tigers and wildlife and so on, we're known for that. But we also work surprisingly a lot with society. That means cities and business, actually. So in that area, that's where I am active with the climate innovations. So that's a short version.
Thank you very much. And then we're going to transit into this project that we mentioned, the deep green transition and how AI can be used for that. And can you just tell us a bit about the background of how this project came to be?
Sure. So it's simply just noting that AI is showing to be very, very potential and have a lot of possibilities to help with many things. So we need to understand how can it help us with the green transformation, which is probably the most important work we are having. So looking more into that, what can be done, and we want to start this by doing this project to find some new opportunities that hasn't been found so far, and kind of get a better feel for what types of challenges can AI really help us with when it comes to green transformation. A lot of them are known already, but we wanted to dig deeper in a few selected spots. So we hope to find something very interesting. And the other purpose with this project is to also find partners that are interested in going with these new opportunities that we find. So we hope to build on this project to get the next project with more partners and develop these opportunities that we uncover. So AI is not our expertise. We know a lot about the challenges, but that's why we hooked up with AI Sweden as partners in this work.
Very good. And with that, actually, I would like to hand over to Victor, if you can kind of elaborate on why AI Sweden would be a good partner for this specific project.
Yeah, so AI Sweden is carrying out this first stage of the project at the behest of WWF Sweden. Really first and foremost because we are the National Center for Applied AI, so we're the natural partner to come to if you have questions about AI or ideas about AI in Sweden. And apart from just great internal resources, also a fantastic network in Sweden and beyond to researchers and private and public sector actors. So yeah, we're right now in what we hope is phase 1 of a larger project. And in this phase, we have focused the question a little bit more narrowly. We're talking a lot about food systems, and we're looking into what AI can do to accelerate a green transition in food systems. And we're interviewing researchers, entrepreneurs, and stakeholders from the private and public sector with expertise in AI, food systems, and behavior. And it's all centered on this question: how can AI accelerate a green transformation? So that's what we're doing right now, and we'll gather that learning in a few weeks here, and see what could become phase 2.
Very interesting. And then this is again an encouragement to the audience. So Victor here mentioned a few things where we would love to receive your input. Who should the project talk to? Are there any experts that you think should be contacted by the project? Or do you have your own thoughts on how we should focus the project? So please use the Q&A to start commenting or asking questions. Thank you so much, Victor. And Eva, how can AI be a part of green transition? That's a very big question, but maybe you can kind of start guiding us into where this discussion can take us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a complex question, I'd say, and I mean, I may say it's getting even more and more complex, since the world is more and more complex. And it's more and more complex global issue, and it's becoming more of a geopolitical issue as well. And the discussion has been going on for a number of years now that AI is a possibility when it comes to green transition and for making a better world. But AI is also a part of the problem. We know about that. But instead of digging into that right now, I think it's important to talk about the possibilities in reality. So as Victor said, we are in this study looking more in specific into the food supply chain, food production, food consumption, which is also a very complex area. Food production is very complex, but there are such a lot of possibilities. If we look into, for instance, into the section of farming and the huge need for reliable and understandable data, because there are an increasing number of sensors everywhere and also in farming, and to optimize production and help in analyzing complex data sets. So there are a huge number of possibilities there when it comes to resource and energy efficiency. That is one part. And then we have the next part, which is handling the inefficiencies and wasteful practices in post-harvest operations, and such as food processing and distribution, but also the area of food waste we are looking into. But there are such a lot of possibilities when it comes to optimizing inventory management in stores and dynamic pricing and quality prediction and sort like that. And the third huge area, we'll come back to that, is also and complex. It is the last part of the chain, the consumer. We have a lot of application and possibilities today, but it is complex because then we come very close to the human being and identity and food, the choice of what you put in your mouth. So, but still, we have some really good examples, and we'll get back to that. But overall, if we zoom out again, there is a need for a system approach when it comes to this area. And of course, as Peter said, collaboration between different sectors in society. That was
Yes.
my short answer.
Yeah, and I think maybe we can kind of stay on that topic for a little bit. First of all, maybe I want to ask both Örjan or Victor if you want to add something to what Eva was starting to touch on here, kind of the concrete areas where AI could be a potential factor. So if you go first to Victor, how you can see how AI can be applied, and then maybe Örjan, you can give us more of the use cases where you would want to see or the need for it. But Victor first.
Yeah, well, first I want to say that it's the interviews and the discussions that we've had so far, it is immensely interesting and a lot of fun as well. There's a lot of energy out there. There's a lot of people working on this, both on the challenge, but also on all the exciting things that could be done with AI and learning technology in the field. I think what Eva brought up that's a super important point here is the aspect of data. So the more you talk about AI and investigate AI, you get to understand that data is really foundational. So all the big players, for instance, OpenAI, Google, etc., they compete largely on the data, on the underlying data, more so than they compete on having the best code or having the best algorithms, right, or the best developers even. And the same is kind of true when we talk about applying AI to green transformation, that it's about largely about AI. If we take the example that Eva brought up of sensor technology in agriculture and production, the farmers are gathering data from their machines. And how do we do that in a better way? How can we gather data on pests or on fungus infections or whatever it is, so that we can reduce the use of fertilizers, reduce the use of pesticides, etc., into production, and also sort of the later stages in the supermarkets as well. How can we use that? It's all about gathering the data, learning from the data, and then applying it. The challenge comes as well. Like a green transformation is a collective effort, right? We have to reduce CO2 emissions, to be very concrete. And it's not one party or one person or one actor that needs to do this, but it's all of us. So we have to act in concert. And that's quite difficult to do in a competitive landscape. So when there is competition between the actors, so how do we act together? How do we pool data? How do we learn from data to act together while at the same time we are competing against each other, right? So maybe my data will help you compete better against me, and I'm hurting myself by sharing data. So federated learning has been a really interesting field of AI that we've sort of started looking into applications of and heard people talk more about. So having the data sit in a federated fashion. So you have your data, it's private and personal to you. I'll have my data, it's private and personal to me. But AI can still learn from this data and give us advice on how to act in a concert. So you don't have to send your sensitive sales data to me, and I don't have to send my sensitive sales data to you, but we can still learn how to maybe price our products better or restructure our store to drive people in a more green direction in their consumption.
Okay, so really it's sharing the model in federated learning rather than sharing the data with the different actors that you would collaborate with. Yeah. Very good. Okay, thank you so much. I want to give the word to Örjan just to hear a bit more about the needs, and then maybe we can come back to some of the interview learnings again, Victor. But Örjan.
Yes. So I agree. It's a really complex situation, and I think AI can help us in so many levels. At least that's my hope, that this is a really new magic wand almost. That one way it can help is what we mentioned already here, basically by using data more and getting more efficient and getting smarter in different ways. That will do a lot of things, and there is a need, as Victor says, for the green transformation. We need to make movements in the right direction in every position and time and situation. So I think we will include help in many places. And what I am very interested in is that it almost always boils down to us as individuals, as me as a consumer individual or me as a politician leader individual. And one thing is that we need more information, better information to make better decisions or more informed decisions. So that is one way AI can probably provide better decision data, so to speak. But still, I think what we struggle most with is a so-called intention action gap. That, okay, I know I should go to the gym, or I know I should buy this, but I don't do it. And that's where we can really unlock a lot of green transformation potential. And this is where I hope AI can help us. And it's not super easy to see exactly how, but I'm very interested in finding out. And there are something there around, because that gap, that we don't take action as we would like to, there is a lot of behavioral science behind this, where we can do different types of nudging and different types of setting the situation more optimal for us to take action. And I think AI can help us with that. And it's very interesting with these personal AI assistants that maybe, can be a super adapted coach for you to make actions that you really want to do. So that's an area that's I think is highly interesting, although probably fairly difficult, but that's just exciting. Thanks.
Very interesting, thank you. And actually I'm gonna go over to Eva just quickly, because you were mentioning the food systems and we were talking about food waste, for example, and then now when Örjan mentioned this intention action, how could this kind of be paired, AI for maybe nudging us to not food waste so much, for example? Are there anything already happening there or things that you would like to look into in the project?
Yes, food waste is huge, and we'll get back to that. We'll dig deeper into that. But I would like to tell about another interesting project within the food chain, if I'm allowed, because it's interesting how when you collaborate between sectors and work transdisciplinary between researchers in different areas. And there is an interesting project between the police and the traditional police works with forensics and animal taking care of animals in farming. So by using AI, you can weigh pigs in a very efficient way and using image analysis and biometrics and things like that. And you get a lot of data to increase profitability, of course, but also to preserve animal health. But this information that you get from this stage is most usable because you need to track information. That is very important for the consumer and for the whole production chain and food chain. But it's super interesting what is happening when you use knowledge and technology from police forensics and you put it into another sector and you see super interesting results. So that is something that we would like to dig deeper into as well in this project.
Yeah. That sounds very good. And I think also we can maybe direct the question towards the audience here, like what would be needed to nudge you to change your own behaviors, and what could an AI kind of do in your life to help you not waste food, or maybe instead of flying, finding other ways of traveling, for example. Could an AI agent that makes travel booking easier, would that be what we need to kind of change our behaviors? But open question for the audience, and please feel free to write in the chat. And in the meantime, Alexander, do we have a question that we can?
Yes.
Pick from the audience.
We actually do, and I'm gonna bring up a question that we have, which is bringing up a bit of the opposite against the green transition. What about AI actually, the energy usage and the emissions that it contains to train these models? How do you see that? That is a question we have here in chat. Maybe
Eva, you were touching on that very quickly before. Do you want to start? And then I think we can let the others as well have a go.
That's true. It's the energy use can be enormous, and we have to be most aware of that, and have a balanced discussion on the needs and the possibilities to make a change, of course, but also when it comes to, I think, international development, it can also it can sort of broaden the divide between developing countries and developed countries. So it is a most interesting and important discussion to have and to follow the development when it comes to energy use and new possibilities and new ways of working. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And Victor, maybe you have another angle on it or something to add.
I think it's true, right? So energy consumption in very large AI is a problem. So that's the first, that's important to say. It's also a broader problem in a lot of our technology today, and it's one that we have to solve and that I think will be solved as well. I do think that the negative environmental impact of AI, though, if you focus on the data centers, you're missing the bigger point. And I think the bigger point is that the big polluters use AI as well. That is the major negative impact of AI. So Shell, for instance, have done a lot of press on their use of AI, how it helps them radically improve deep sea exploration of fossil fuels of oil. And that use of AI will put a lot of carbon into the atmosphere. And that's sort of where we have to have that's where the focus should be, I think, on the negative impact of AI. Those are the things that we should be talking about. Data centers are a little bit of a distraction in my view. And we have to make sure that we use AI in good applications to benefit or to drive a green transformation as well. And then make sure that we talk about what really hurts the planet.
I can add to that as
yes,
well.
please.
Yeah, so I agree with you there, and it's and I also think that it's unstoppable. We cannot put brakes on this development, but trying to be mindful, as Eva said, that trying to be conservative with the energy usage and use it for the right things. And I just want to also point out that with development, with making things more efficient, we usually think that this is better. We get more efficient with things. AI can help us to become more efficient, but usually when we become more efficient, we use the items even more, so the total effect becomes even higher. That's a Jevons paradox, and that is, I think, is really, really important to be mindful of, that we take care of this new opportunity and develop it for the best things, but also we need to tackle this paradox that we always get into, more or less, also with this new powerful tool then. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I see that we have a few.
May I comment? Sorry.
Yep, okay,
Sorry, may I comment, Ebba?
Yes, go ahead.
But this is why I think it's even more important to foster collaboration between sectors and show the results and promote data sharing and also support the education. Foremost, I think, among decision makers, and to show the effects in different sectors in a very, very practical way, because I think it's a huge need for that practical examples, because now the discussion on AI is often on a more high level, and you need practical examples, figures, results.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to direct one question to Victor when we had this kind of solving the paradoxes and seeing these kind of controversies between using AI for good or for bad, or what impact it has. And from the interviews, you were mentioning some of the interviews are already done. Have you had any learnings on this topic from the experts that you have already talked to? And after that, we will bring in another question or a comment from the audience.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so I would say that it's perhaps bringing it back a little bit to the way I answered the question. One thing that's come up is that a lot of the early applications of AI now is areas where it's relatively easy, or kind of where it's easy to have ideas about how to apply AI. So there's a lot of work that's happening in sensor technology and in farming, for instance, but perhaps less work happening at the end of the supply chain. So it's fine to grow wheat more efficiently, or corn more efficiently, but if we use all of that corn to feed cattle and to increase our meat consumption drastically, then that's not going to have the effect that we desire, right? So it takes a change also at the end of the supply chain as well. And so that's one of the things that we learned, where AI kind of goes in the easiest direction first, but we need to start looking at how to apply this at different levels of the supply chain.
Okay, very interesting. And it's really, as you all have mentioned, it's a complex system and with a lot of different steps in the chain, but where of course we need to start somewhere, right? But Alexander, I know we have a question also again in the chat, so let's make sure that we have time for that. And it might actually be the last one that we have time for.
Yes, absolutely. So the question we have in the chat, it's touching a bit upon the data exchange example that you brought up earlier, and that is great. But another example is for EV charging, that there are many different providers who sell subscriptions, and for consumers it's very confusing and not very convenient. That the actual big companies want to lock in the customers from their competitors. So the question is really, how do you see that startups could play a role in this aspect?
And Victor, would you like to start? And we actually do have about 3 minutes, including wrap up. So we need to get a kind of quick answer.
It's a super interesting question. The world that we live in has a lot of very, very big tech players. So there is a lot of close to monopolies going on. I think that there is a lot of interest. I think two things. First of all, we can talk about data sharing, but we can also talk about sharing knowledge or sharing learning. And that brings us back a little bit to federated AI in a way, but also sort of be easier to maybe share the patterns or share what we've learned from reducing energy consumption in homes, rather than sharing the raw data of it. The other aspect is that there are definitely interesting startup things going on. I learned a few days ago about the energy protocol, where we have an energy, perhaps not a startup, but a Swedish player that have developed something that's similar to the internet protocol, but for energy, that dictates how energy can be shared in smaller communities where you have maybe solar production and batteries in villas, for instance, in a villa area. So that protocol model for sharing, or protocol model for running business, is a super interesting way of doing things, rather than lock everything into an application or an ecosystem.
Thank you very much. That's super interesting. And just actually to wrap up, of course, the next question is, how can anybody get in contact with you, come with more input that they didn't have time for right now? How can we also follow the project going forward? Should we start with Victor and then maybe some final words from Örjan?
So reach out to me as project lead. The email address is here. We do have a project page as well on the AI Sweden website that the QR code leads to. So as the project develops and we start getting results, they will be mentioned on the project page as well. But if you have any questions, ideas, or proposals, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you very much. And Örjan, some final words from WWF.
Yes, thank you. I think Victor mentioned it all. I mean, every good idea we can get extra into this project from anyone listening in is very valuable. So get in contact with us in such a case, and we can show the results when it's ready.
We're hoping for really interesting and good results. So thank you to our panel, Eva, Victor, and Örjan. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Alexander, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And of course, thanks to the audience listening in and to Sweden Innovation Days. We hope you enjoy the rest of their program as well. Thank you so much and goodbye.